Let's bring in Trey Mancini right now, joining us from the Cubbies. And how you doing, Trey? And where are you right now?
I'm at my apartment in Chicago right now.
Nice. How's Chicago life treating you, dude?
It's great. Such a great city. One of the best. One of my favorite places to come as a visiting player. So to play here now has been really cool. So we love it here.
Well, we appreciate the time, dude. Go ahead, AJ. You're the Chicago
I was going to
guy.
ask him what neighborhood, because me and Kip both know Chicago well. What
Yeah,
neighborhood
we're in
are we talking?
Streeterville, so like right downtown. Like right in the heart of the city. So, when I was in Baltimore and Houston, we were a little bit outside the city, but I feel like in Chicago, you got to be downtown. There's too many good restaurants and things to do to not be down here.
What are some of your favorite?
Bavette's is probably my favorite restaurant.
Good pick.
I love Bavette's, and there's like too many to count, but Bavette's is definitely number one, I think.
Russ Dorsey owes me a dinner at Bavette, so I'm waiting for him to take me there. So when you see him at the game tonight, tell him he owes me dinner.
I will. I'll make sure to pass that along.
And it has to be at Bavette's.
I'm sure that'll be the first thing on his mind when he's at the ballpark trying to.
I'm going to remember. I got you.
Nice. I like it. Trey, listen. You know why? You know how I know he'll remember, Scott? Because he's from Winter Haven. Us Central Florida guys, we stick together. Okay, so you stay.
I'm a Central Florida guy. Screw you.
Yeah, but you didn't go through the grind of playing here in the summer when it's 200 degrees and playing doubleheaders in
I'll
Central
be in Orlando
Florida.
tomorrow.
Rough,
baby.
man.
Was that Cleveland spring training site? Was that
Chain of Lakes?
Way back when?
Yeah, Chain of Lakes Park, Winter Haven.
That place.
I went to a lot of those games when I was growing up.
That place was awful.
Growing up, then did you watch them a lot? Like, was that your first or second favorite team?
They were actually. Like, I probably followed Cleveland closer than any other team when I was growing up. Our whole town loved them, and it was so cool. I'd get out of school and go to, a spring training game, see CC Sabathia pitch. I saw him like right as he was bursting onto the scene. At that time I was a really young kid, but it was so cool. They had such good players back then, like seeing Kenny Lofton, Travis Hafner, so many great players. It was really cool.
That place was awful. Let's be honest. That place
it was rough. As I've gotten older, I can't believe that was a major league spring training place for so long. Till like 2008 was their last year there.
Yeah, I mean you're in like one of the great ones now in Mesa with the Cubs, and then you look back and you're like, gosh, as a kid I went to Chain of Lakes where there was like one field and the stadium was falling down. When you're in spring training in Florida, you're like, I got to go to Chain of Lakes. You're like, oh please God.
Yeah, there's like alligators coming off the lake into the outfield on one of the fields. Yeah, it's crazy down there.
Is that true? There were alligators in the outfield?
I saw, like we would play some high school tournaments there, and there were a couple gators on one of the backfields there one time. So, that's typical in Winter Haven, though.
Wow.
Scott, don't tell Scott. Scott's scared of alligators.
He's scared of alligators.
He's scared of alligators.
No, I just think like them being like the norm, like, oh, cool, there's an alligator right there. I think that's weird,
Yeah,
like, alligator
just casual down there.
Like, to me, my thing, Trey, that I'm always thinking about is I don't want to step on one. So like, if you're in the outfield, it's like, I don't want to step on the alligator. Or I went to University of Miami, and when I was there, they got rid of them eventually. Like, they had them on campus. I almost stepped on one night, and I'm just like, this is weird. Like, I don't want to step on an
they're
alligator.
all over the place.
It's not like stepping on like a bug or something. Like, this is a real freaking reptile that gets pissed off.
Oh yeah, they get pissed.
I didn't think we'd go here, but anyway, all right, let's talk Cubbies for a sec, okay? So tell me who some of your best friends are so far, and also what's it been like to watch the season that Marcus Stroman is putting together? We know the dude's been good, but this is the best he's ever put together. I think there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, watching Stro pitch is absolutely incredible, and I've seen him pitch for a long time, obviously. He was with Toronto for a while, and I was in Baltimore, so I faced him a lot. So it's a lot more fun being on his team and getting to watch him pitch than having to face him a good amount. But he's just so locked in every time he takes the mound. Just the way he carries himself, the confidence he has, the belief in himself, it's incredible, and it's showing. He's had such an incredible year, obviously a very well-deserved All-Star nod, and a huge Cy Young candidate. So happy for him, and it's been so cool to play with him.
How's the team feeling about this second half? Are you guys? You got to be having your ears to the ground about the trade deadline. You got to know a bunch of names are coming up, but you also know that you're still no one's really pulled away from the NL Central. You guys are still within reaching
Exactly.
distance with a lot of games versus each other left.
Yeah, exactly. It's the first time I've like had the experience of being on a team where you're not sure what they're going to do was last year in Baltimore, basically, and 2017 in Baltimore. But it's an interesting spot to be in. But as a player, the last thing you want to do is sell. You want to, these are huge next couple weeks coming up for us. Let's be honest, it's huge. And I think 8 of our next 13 games are against the Cardinals too, which is kind of crazy scheduling. But having division games like that is really big. And like I said, as players, we want to have a really good couple of weeks so we can keep the band together.
Trey, you were traded last year from Baltimore to Houston. Explain to people out there. I always say changing teams the first time is the hardest. So explain what it's like changing teams last year for you. The first time, I'm hoping it was easier when you left Houston. Obviously, you won a World Series, so that makes everything great. But then to Cubs. But I feel like the first time, the Orioles to the Astros is always the hardest time.
It is, and it's not because you don't want to go to a new place necessarily, which I absolutely love Baltimore so much. I had been there for 10 years, so I think that's what the hardest part was. I was so established, I had such a kind of key role in the organization. I had seen all these guys younger than me come up and start to succeed. So it's going from that to a new team where you almost feel like a rookie the first few days when you go to a new place. You don't know who anybody is other than the players, and you're trying to learn all these names, learn a new city, learn a new stadium, things like that, while also trying to maintain the same performance that you had in this other place that you were so comfortable in. So it can throw you for a loop, but luckily in Houston, the guys were absolutely incredible, and I fit in really well there. So I had such a good experience in Houston, and I'm so thankful for my time there. But yeah, it is hard to leave a place that you love so much with guys that you become so close with too. So it's very bittersweet, and yeah, very interesting emotions to go around.
Trey, were you shocked? What would be the word that you described last year when you were traded? Because I have to say, overall, what they did, and I know it's helping them now this year and moving forward, but they were playoff relevant. They could have made the postseason, and now they're great. Obviously, they're most likely going to be in the playoffs this year. But between you and Lopez, the closer, getting dealt away, I know speaking to some players on the team while they were still there, they were like, I get it, but like it kind of sucks because you're basically telling us that you don't believe in us for the last 2 months of the season.
Yeah, it was interesting. And, funny enough, last year was the first time that I tried not to really pay much attention to it or give it much thought. And I did a pretty good job of thinking, of sticking with that. But I had been in trade rumors a few years before that and got really caught up in it, and it didn't happen. So last year I told myself I was going to enjoy my time. Wasn't sure what was going to happen, but of course, like it kind of, blindsided me the day that it did happen. But yeah, it was an interesting spot. I didn't know what the Orioles were going to do because we were a game above 500, I think, at the time. So I knew it was around 50-50, and we were just part of a really strong division, is what it came down to. And they pulled the trigger and traded Loki and I. So like I said, it was bittersweet. It was tough to leave a place that I grew to love so much, but I also got to experience a new place and make a lot of new friends on the Astros, and most importantly, win a World Series. So it was a whirlwind looking back, but something I'm thankful I got to go through, because it's definitely an interesting part of baseball, getting traded.
Yeah, that's the thing to me is, and like you said, AJ, winning the World Series helps, but the other part of bittersweet is they're good now. You went through some shit, dude, for years. Like they were Tank City. They rebuilt. They had all the number 1 picks, and they are stacked with prospects as much as any team in baseball. And you don't get to like play out that final chapter. Now, again, I think if I offered you, do you want to play out the Orioles run for 5 years of being good, but you don't know if you'll win a World Series, or would you take a World Series ring with the Astros, which is obviously a goal for any ball player, which one would you take?
I mean, you got to say the World Series. That's what that's what we all dream of as a kid. And yeah, I mean, I made my debut in 2016 and got to experience the wild card game that year, and then obviously was there through the entire rebuild, which was tough a lot of the time. But I do feel like I saw the end of it too last year. I mean, things had really turned around, and those guys have kept it going. They are all like really good ball players, and a lot of these guys that have gotten called up towards the end of last year and this year too, they're studs. So I'm so happy for them. So I'd be remiss to have any bitterness in any way, because I had such a great tenure there and ended on such good terms, and that's something that lasts for a lifetime. And I got to go to a new team and win a World Series. So the Orioles are just a team now that I happen to have a lot of friends on, and you always want the best for your friends.
Do you root for them? I know you obviously root for the team you're on, but do you root for the Orioles now because of everything that you went through there?
It's tough. Whenever you're playing, you just focus. I think last year after I got traded, I was kind of keeping tabs on how they were doing, and it was a little weird. And this year, it's not really like that at all. Like we played them back in June, and it was kind of like playing any other team. Obviously, I want success for like my friends that are on the team.
Bullshit. You're like, screw you, man. You guys traded me.
Come on here and
He's not like that, AJ.
Dude, everybody has a little bit of that in them. Listen, I know you won the World Series when they traded you to Houston, but in your mind, you're thinking, man, if they would have kept me, maybe we could have made the playoffs last year. Maybe we could have made a run. Maybe I could still be in Baltimore.
But he won a World Series, dude. He just said he wouldn't trade that. I mean, dude.
I understand. But
how many players get a World Series ring, even if you're on good teams and all that, and you play for 15 years in the bigs or whatever it is, right?
I understand that, but what I'm saying is when you play them the next time, because they did trade them, you're not like, oh yeah, it's just another team. Like, I'm so happy for them. Bullshit, dude. There's a little.
Oh no,
bit
I'm
of
not.
you.
I
want to kick your butt.
For him, but I'm not like I'm still playing, so I'm not actively rooting for another team in any regard.
No. Yeah, I understand that. Yes, I understand that. But when you played them, you said, oh, it was another team. No, that's what I'm calling.
I mean, last year when I got traded, we played them, and I was like, I had like really rough series against them. I only played in one game against them this year, but I had a great game, and so it did feel good. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Scott doesn't understand that part of it.
Well, that's why this is a player-run show, obviously. Okay. But hey, one more about Baltimore last year. What did the guys say when they show up to spring training and somebody probably broke the news like, hey, so we moved the wall back and made it more difficult for everyone? Obviously, I'm guessing they didn't talk to any of the players. So was there like a moment? Because some people probably paid attention to the news, but I'm sure some players showed up and they were like, excuse me?
Yeah, righties.
Yeah, it was mostly Mountcastle and I, the two righties. Yeah, we were pissed. I'm not gonna lie, like we weren't thrilled about it. And yeah, the two of us, we were a little outspoken about it. I'd say the first like month or so, and then we got over it. But yeah, it was a big change. My jaw dropped the first time I saw it. It was pretty crazy. It's wild, but on the flip side, you look at their lineup now. They got a lot of lefties in there, and it helps. And it helped the pitching side of things big time.
That was the thing, was AJ, for a while it was hard to talk pitchers into signing with the Orioles, right? I mean, that was a thing, and I don't think that's going to be a thing as much anymore. I mean, you still have to deal with the AL East, so your ERA is obviously going to be probably a little rougher than it would be anywhere else. But do you think that helps a lot for them from a front office perspective, AJ, and then I guess Trey after that?
I think it does, but I mean, Baltimore was also not very good for a long time, so nobody wanted to go there, and they weren't spending money. So now they're good. They have a lot of young prospects, so I think they'll have a little bit easier of a time getting people to come in there. And like Trey said, when he was a free agent this year, guess where he looked at? Chicago. Why? Because it's a great place to play, a great ballpark, and they're supposed to be kind of climbing up, right? So it's a lot of different factors. It's not just the park, but I mean, Chicago's a great place to live, where he said, now he's there. The park's great. The fans are great. It's all encompassing.
Yeah, I think having like free agent pitchers want to go to Baltimore is huge, and I think that was a big reason for the decision to move the wall back.
What do you think of the way that the schedule has been adjusted starting this year and beyond, where teams don't play each other as much within the division? I know the AL East is loving it, but also the other component of every single player gets to make a stop in each ballpark.
Yeah, I like the new schedule. I think it's cool that you get to play every team. The only part of me that's like a little bitter about it, I guess, was it was like really hard to get to the point where you had played in every single park, and now everybody's going to hit it in like 2 years. So I finally got to play in San Fran and Dodger Stadium this year for the first time, but like everybody's going to do it, in these next couple years. So that's the only part of me that was like, had any bitterness about it. But I think it's pretty cool getting play every team. But if you ask somebody on Seattle about it, if they travel is probably even worse for them, and it's already pretty tough to begin with. So I'm not sure if they're loving it, but we're in the Central. Travel's never too bad, so it's cool getting to go everywhere.
Speaking of the schedule, have you gotten used to all the day games with the Cubs? Are you a day
Love
game
day
guy?
games.
You like day games?
I'm a big day game guy, so I actually really like it a lot.
What
Yeah.
makes you a big day game guy?
You kind of get, a good amount of a semblance of a day after the game's over, basically. Your whole day is geared towards the game. So when your game's at 7:05, the game ends at 10 o'clock. It's like, you go to bed and then it's the next day already. Day games, it's a little quicker day before the game. It's a little more concise schedule. You play the game and then you get to go to dinner. It's a little more like working a 9 to 5.
I was going to say, with those 1 o'clock games, you could still get that 6 o'clock Bavette's reservation.
Exactly.
Yeah, all the Chicago restaurants are at your fingertips on day games.
Absolutely.
Hey, I love it. Trey, awesome catching up with you. Keep doing your thing in Chicago, and we appreciate the time, dude.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Good talking to you. Trey Mancini with us on FT Live.